We are talking today about navigating transitions with your kids when mom or dad serve in the military, which I think is something that work and something we don't talk about a lot. I think we can tend to say that our kids are resilient, and they are, but it also can be hard on them. Hey, Ashley.
Hey.
So appreciate you making time, Ashley. I know
Yeah.
I can really appreciate you because I also homeschooled my kids, and I know you're doing that in the midst of also trying to launch a book yourself. So, everybody, Ashley is an author and she's also a military spouse. She just had a book come out in August, and I've got it right here, which I'm really enjoying. And I'm not just saying that, I'm really enjoying this. Mission Ready Marriage is her book, and I have been through the majority of it. And wow, you guys, this is a resource you absolutely need. So go out and get it. I actually have several copies, Ashley, because I'm planning to gift them
Oh, thank
to all
you.
the couples that we do premarital counseling with.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's such a great resource. I really needed this back when I got married. I probably needed it for most of my time being a military spouse, to be honest. I feel
Yeah.
like I only figured it out kind of at the end of our journey. So, Ashley is a 16-year military spouse. Her husband serves in the Army. And Ashley and I today are talking about transitions and how to navigate that with our kids. And I have to say, every kid is different, every year is different. So even though we have some suggestions, I do think that you just have to try to figure out, because what works for one kid might not work for the others. And I know from my kids' experience, I was like, oh, they're resilient, they're tough, they'll be fine. And then, we started to see, especially as our kids got older, that all of the transition was incredibly hard on them. And maybe
Mhm.
they couldn't articulate it,
Yes.
but it was hard on them. So I wanted to do this topic, first of all, because I have Ashley's book and I saw she wrote some really great content on it. But I also think it's something that we don't address a lot. So for military kids, these are all the transitions that I could just think about that were a normal part of their life, right? Dad is home, dad is going to training, dad is deploying, dad is coming back from deployment, dad is working nights now. No, now dad's working late. Dad has to go out in the field. Dad is at a short training. Now he's at a longer training, right? So transition, transition, transition. And those, I'm sure probably, I would bet, Ashley, you could add some that I haven't even thought of because I didn't do the Army wife life.
That was well covered.
Okay. I have gotten to know a lot of Army spouses since we've been
Yeah.
serving in ministry. And I have to say, military, Army wives, man, you guys are hardcore because you have so many more transitions.
Mm.
You've got National Training Center, and your guys like to camp all the time.
Yes.
The Air Force doesn't do that much. So Ashley, in your new book, you talk about, you have a whole chapter on parenting military style, which I just love. Because, right, there are so many books out there on
Yeah.
parenting, but not a lot to address some of our unique concerns. So I just think this is such wisdom, but I'm going to let you unpack it because you're the
Mhm.
expert. But you said that one of the things that you recommend is that to teach our children that disappointment will likely be a part of their lives. And I think there is so much wisdom in that. And so if you could unpack that for us, and especially how you point your kids to God in the midst of accepting that disappointment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, the transition is constant, whether they're deployed or not. Like my husband's gone right now. He was gone earlier in the week. He came back for 1 day. So I think it's just a lot of communication with our kids, and that's going to look different for whatever age. So obviously, if you have a 1-year-old or a 5-year-old, that's a lot different than the communication you're going to offer your 16-year-old. So, and like you said too, our kids all have different learning styles and different abilities to understand. So we have to take all that into account. But when they're dealing with the disappointment of mom or dad being gone, I think it's really important, like you said, to let them know like disappointment is a part of life. And so period, right? We're going to have to face this. We're going to be disappointed that dad's gone. We're going to be disappointed that he's missing your show or he's missing your baseball game. But how can we be okay with that and deal with that in a healthy manner? And I think that comes down to knowing God's character. So we do a lot of talking about that around the dinner table. Every night we have dinner as a family around the table, and often my husband's not there. And so, they will be disappointed about that. And one of the things we can talk about is that this is our mission field as a family. And daddy has really important work that he has to do right now. He's helping other soldiers learn how to be safe or learn how to do their job. And God has given him special gifts for him to be here. And then also with that, though, is sacrifice for our family. And so our family doesn't get to have dad at the table every night, but that's because God has entrusted him with a special mission, and he's entrusted us with that special mission too. And so we can invite the mom across the street over for dinner, or when her husband is deployed, we can help babysit her kids or things like that. So I think just really impressing upon them the fact that this is important work and this is valuable work. And it doesn't mean it's not hard, but that as we sacrifice, there's a special reason God is allowing it and that he's still good. Even though things are hard and dad's going to miss things and he can't be here tonight or put you to bed, we can still trust God's good. And sometimes we can't see that, but I like to point to the little pieces that they can connect. Like for example, this week we were walking down our street and there's a muscadine tree that grows here. And my son picked off some muscadines and we were eating them. And I was explaining to him, we had never heard of a muscadine before. And it's like a little grape if you haven't heard of it. When we were in the NICU for 3 months with our daughter, we were walking on a trail out of town because we weren't in a NICU in town. And while we were there, a lady who was walking on the trail was like, "Hey, kids, come look at this tree. It grows muscadines." And so we try to connect the dots for them. Like, for example, like we wouldn't be able to pick this fruit off this tree right now because in our neighborhood, because we wouldn't even know it existed because we didn't
Right.
even know what a muscadine was
Mhm.
before. So trying to like, pull the string between all these things of
Yes.
how God is still good even when things are hard.
Yeah. And I really liked when I read in your book that you point that out because I think it is so incredibly countercultural. Like, the world says we should just make everything perfect for our kids and like sterilize them. But right, life does involve disappointments, a lot of disappointments. And I think that's actually some of the transition is, I'm in ministry with Gen Z, right? I feel like that can be an adjustment for people when everything has just gone smoothly and they've lived in this box.
Yes.
Life is just full of disappointments. And it's not like we would want to sign our kids up for it, but
Yeah.
it is a part of life. And I think like just facing it and recognizing that God is still good, even when our circumstances are not, and teaching them that from an early age. But I love your
Yeah.
story of that. And by the way, I had never heard of that
Yeah.
tree, so I'm learning as well.
It's a really
Um,
sweet fruit. You'll like it if you ever come across
well,
one.
good. Yeah, I was like, I don't know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, now the next thing I wanted to talk about is in your book also. Again, cannot recommend it enough,
Thank
guys. Mission Ready
you.
Marriage, you need it. She talks about, just preparing your kids like in advance. Hey, dad is going to be deployed, or maybe even a longer TDY, right? Training. And you had a lot of really great ideas. Um, and I think it's interesting because I came up with a list before I looked at your list, and we really didn't have a lot of the same things, which
Oh,
just was
that's neat.
encouraging to me. Like there
Yeah.
are a lot of, things to do. So what are three tangible ways, just three, that you prepare your kids through the reality of mom or dad being gone?
So I think definitely preparing ahead of time if you can. Now we're at the home of special operations here. So a lot of people go on 2 hour notice or
Yeah.
overnight they're gone. So in those cases, you can prepare your kids, like at any moment, dad may have to leave. But
Yep.
I think part of it, one of the things that we really enjoyed in the past that we've done is going to making it fun if you have time to prepare. And if
Hmm.
you have younger kids, like we went to Build-A-Bear and they have an option where you can put a recordable button in the arm. And so we would have dad record a message and sew it up into the Build-A-Bear, and then they can dress it up and then they can play his voice whenever they
Yes.
want. So that was an easy thing that we can do. Um, there's a couple different boxes, one by the Armed Services Ministry and one called Counting Our Heroes Home, and there may be others, but those are boxes that your kids can receive once a month filled with goodies that understand where they are and help encourage them.
Yeah, and those are
Um,
free.
yes,
So we
yes,
always like free. That is one of the benefits of being a military family is they do offer us some things free.
yes,
I mean, we sacrifice for them, but
yeah,
nonetheless.
that's right. Yeah. The Count Our Heroes home box is not, but I do love that one, and
Okay.
it includes some things for the mom too, which is nice.
Okay. Great.
Um
Thanks for pointing that out.
and then the other
I had not heard of that one. I guess I made a
option,
wrong assumption.
yeah. And then the other option is just to really do some research, and this can be a quick phone call to your post or the family support leader, but in finding out like what resources are on your installation. So in here at our installation, there's an option to go video record yourself reading a book. So the parent deploying can do that. And there's camps and there's after school programs for kids whose parents are deployed, and it's all free. And so that allows them to be around other kids who are going through the same thing. And it's led by people the leaders who are specifically trained to help support your kids in those emotions. So I think that's another great option too.
Yeah, that's great. And so hopefully we have all branches here. So like Army, that tends to be like your FRG, your Family
Yes,
Readiness Group. In the Navy and in the Air Force, they call that the Family Readiness Center. I think they're actually calling it the Military Readiness Center. And then in the Navy, it's Fleet and Family. So I wish that we could call it the same thing in all the branches.
that would be very
Um,
helpful.
yeah. So, but nonetheless, if you're married to a military member, they should be getting the option to let you know about a briefing that you can attend before deployment. And sometimes they think maybe we don't want to be a part of that. So if you're here listening, I just thought of this, right? If you're here listening and you're like, wow, I've never heard of that, tell your military member, like, hey, I'd like to know about that stuff. Because there really is a lot of great resources. And I know for my kids, when we went to some of our FRG events or deployment, it was very helpful for them to see that they were not the only ones that
Yes,
had their dad gone. And, just play and interact with other kids and then also kind of feel like, okay, it's not just us that has to make the sacrifices. I think that was helpful for my kids.
right.
Um, okay, so now all last week I was talking about reintegration for the couple, but I want to address that for the kid too, because I don't know about you, but for like me, I actually think that reintegration might be harder than my husband initially
Yes,
leaving. Because like I've been steering the ship all by myself, and then like I got
yes,
to let him back in, and it's hard for the kids too, because they're like, hey, who's in charge? Is it mom? Is it dad? And they don't really understand all that's happening with dad, right? Dad's likely been on a different time zone. He's tired. He's been doing an ops tempo. He's probably, I mean, if he's come back via the military, likely it's taken him several days to get back. So there's all these things. So what do you recommend, Ashley? What are some of the things that you say? How do we prepare our kids for reintegration?
I think that's a great question. And again, I'd go back to the beginning when you're getting ready to deploy them, and a lot of talking and a lot of conversation. It could be coloring pictures, it could be acting it out with puppets, depending how old your kids are. But daddy's coming home and all the things you just explained, putting that onto a kid's level.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you're going to want to go fishing with him right away, but he's going to probably need to sleep for a couple days, or he's not going to have enough energy. He may need to be taking naps. And like you said too about like who's in charge and talking to them about that, like mommy's been in charge. I've been, doing the disciplinary and the rules and all
Yeah.
those things. but daddy's coming back now and we respect what he says. And even if we don't understand, we need to be
Hmm.
respectful and we can talk to him about how we've been doing things differently. And, but just really letting them know to respect their father as they come back, even because, like you said, it's often more challenging than that deployment part as you learn to reintegrate with everybody's quirks and idiosyncrasies and demands and irritations and all of those things. So I think just that communication part, that to lay the groundwork for expectations, like it's not going to be all roses and rainbows, and dad's not going to be here to just play with you. A lot of times when they get back from a deployment, like the next day, they're going back into work
They got to
to
train.
get their, yes, to do training. And then they might get a couple of
Yeah.
days off. So letting them know all those things.
Hmm.
And then also, one thing that we found that's really works in our family is to have something for the kids to look forward to do with dad. So maybe that's going fishing, or it might be the girls going on a daddy daughter date, or you might have a family trip.
Hmm.
One thing we have loved to do based on the movie Yes Day is give our kids a yes day, which is so much fun and just creates a lot of family bonding. And basically, that's where the kids get to be in charge and they have some ground rules. Maybe they have like $100 and they can go
Hmm.
no further than an hour away, but they get to plan the day and you have to say yes.
Yeah.
And so that's just so those little things for them to look forward to. And so they can start planning in their minds and
Yeah,
to
I love
help kind of create
that.
that
And
family
that's a great
bonding.
idea. Now, when you're doing that yes day, one of the things that I recognize is that sometimes the mom or dad, depending on who went off, to deployment, has really been dealing with some difficult stuff. And, I've noticed is that you kind of have to give that service member some time to kind of readjust into the family. I like to call it
Yes.
like a slow adjustment. And I
Yes.
personally have to keep my expectations low.
Yes.
Um, so with your yes day, when in the reintegration do you do that? Do you do it right away or do you kind of put it off a week or two?
That's a great question. And I think that'll just be completely dependent on where your service member was. Are they coming back with combat trauma?
Yeah.
Are they coming back with, my husband's like, I feel like basically on a really cool vacation right now in California. So it's not going to be an issue for him when he comes
Right.
back. He's going to be
Right.
like on a high. He's doing some really
Oh,
neat
that's
things.
hard.
Yeah. So I think it's just going to be dependent. And maybe he has to return to work right away, or maybe he's got 2 weeks off and you can plan it out. But I think that'll be like family by family dependent.
Yeah, and then that speaks to the importance of communicating expectations,
Yes.
right? So if
Yes.
your service member is deployed or at training, like say, hey, what are your expectations coming back? I mean, even say like this random girl on
Yeah.
the internet, Beth, said maybe we should let you adjust in because like I didn't know that. I just was so looking forward to him coming home, and I didn't. I just had my little focus on me and I just wanted to see my spouse, but like
Right.
I didn't know the time difference and how tired they are and then what they've
Yes.
been dealing with. And just allowing them some time to slowly adjust and not expect 100% and really emotionally able to be 100% there. So
Yeah.
that's just something that I learned that maybe I wish I would have known earlier. But yeah,
I learned
so
that
you
the
got to
hard way too.
communicate your expectations. I mean, and really like in all of marriage, pretty much every issue comes down to have we communicated our
Right.
expectations?
Yes.
So, yeah. Well, Ashley, this has been so helpful and a really great conversation. I just appreciate you giving me the time. Again, guys, look up Mission Ready Marriage. It's such a good book, and I really, really wish that I had had it when I was a young military spouse. And this is brand new, hot off the presses, so it is, very current for today's day and age. So, Ashley, thanks so much for your time, and I will collaborate with you so that you can save this to your page as well.
Okay. Thank you,
Thanks,
Beth. And
all
I
of
can't wait for
Ashley's
your book.
followers. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, all of you that follow Ashley who came on today. It's really good to have you all. All right,
Bye.
thanks. Bye.